It was supposed to be just another awkward Sunday lunch with my dad. Same burnt lasagna, same passive-aggressive comments about my career, and the usual silence from his wife, Carol, who always looked like she'd rather be at a funeral. Mine, probably. But this time? This time he had news. We were halfway through his dry garlic bread when he clinked his wine glass and said, "Daniel, I want you to meet someone very special." His voice had that fake tenderness he usually reserved for salesmen and dogs he didn't like. In walks this woman, tall, stylish, perfect nails, expensive sunglasses still on indoors like she was hiding from paparazzi, and she beams at me. "Hi, I'm Serena," she says. "I'm your sister." I laughed. I actually laughed. Thought it was a joke. But Dad just nodded proudly and went, "Well, half-sister. Technically." Technically? Apparently, 30 years ago, he had a brief thing with a woman in San Diego, and Serena was the result. She'd found him through a DNA test. They'd been secretly talking for months. And now? Now she was part of the family. I didn't even know what to say. I just sat there, frozen, holding a lukewarm breadstick like it was a microphone, and someone had just told me to sing the national anthem. Serena kept smiling at me, like this was a heartwarming reunion, like we were going to hug and bake cookies and cry. Meanwhile, Carol sipped her wine like it was morphine. And then came the kicker. Dad put his arm around Serena and said, "She's moving in for a bit while she gets settled. Might even help with the business." The business. My business. The one I'd been running for him practically solo for the last 6 years. I felt something shift in me right then, like a switch flipping. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just a sweet family reunion. Something was off. And I was about to find out exactly what. The next morning, Serena showed up at the office like she owned the place. I don't mean that metaphorically. She literally walked in, waved at the receptionist like she was royalty, and strolled into my office with a non-fat oat latte like we were old coworkers. She plopped down in the guest chair, crossed her legs, and said, "Dad said you'd show me around?" Not could, not might, would. I forced a smile. Of course. Welcome to the circus. She laughed like I was hilarious, but her eyes? Dead serious. Sharp. Like she was taking inventory of everything, my laptop, the art on the wall, the energy in the room. Predatory, almost. "I think this is going to be so fun," she said, spinning slightly in the chair. "Dad told me you've done a great job keeping things running. But I've got so many ideas." Ideas? We sold custom lighting fixtures to hotels and restaurants. It was niche, unglamorous, and thankless. But it paid well, because I made it that way. I built our digital platform, secured major contracts, even saved us from bankruptcy when Dad accidentally invested in crypto. And now this woman wanted to play CEO Barbie? Still, I gave her the tour. Explained how we managed supplier relationships, our long-standing clients, the warehouse operations. She nodded politely through most of it, but I could tell she wasn't really listening. Her focus was on something else entirely. "So how many employees do we have?" she asked, scribbling on her phone. "We?" She looked up with that wide, fake friendly smile. "Dad said he wants me to shadow you for a few weeks. Eventually, I'll take over marketing and brand partnerships. My background's in luxury lifestyle branding." I blinked. "We sell sconce lighting to mid-range conference hotels." She giggled. "Exactly. So much room to grow." By lunch, she'd already changed her job title on LinkedIn to Vice President, Brand and Vision Strategy. I didn't even know that was a real thing. Back at home, Dad was smug about the whole thing. Isn't she impressive? She's got real potential. You two are going to make a great team. I asked him flat out, "What's the plan here? Am I being replaced?" He laughed, shook his head, and clapped me on the back. "Of course not. I'm just thinking ahead. Someday this'll all be yours, both of yours." That night, I lay awake replaying every weird little moment. Serena's quick phone pictures of the client list. Her slick smile. The way she looked at my office like it was already hers. And that was when I realized I didn't trust her. Not even a little. 2 weeks later, the emails started disappearing. Not junk mail. Not newsletters. Client emails. Confirmations, invoices, order details, gone. At first, I thought it was a glitch. IT ran diagnostics, found nothing. I even changed my passwords. Still, entire threads would vanish or reappear marked read, even though I hadn't touched them. Meanwhile, Serena was flourishing. She'd rebranded the website, by which I mean she plastered it in gold font and moody model photos like we were selling perfume, not wall sconces. She hosted a launch brunch for her new look in the break room, complete with mimosas and an actual live harpist. Our warehouse team was baffled. I tried to talk to Dad, but he just waved me off. You're too tense, Daniel. Learn to delegate. Let her experiment a little. Easy to say when your definition of a little was giving her full access to our CRM and financials. Then one morning, I walked into my office and stopped cold. My framed photo, the one of me and Mom on my college graduation day, was gone. In its place, a crystal paperweight shaped like a crown and a new brass nameplate. Serena Collins, brand visionary. I walked out, fuming, and found her perched at the front desk, chatting with Marissa from HR like she'd been running things for years. Serena, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Did you move into my office? She blinked innocently. Oh. Sorry, didn't Dad tell you? We're doing some spatial restructuring. You're moving down the hall, more privacy for calls, less foot traffic. I stared at her. That's my office. I've worked there for 6 years. She tilted her head. And you'll still have an office, Daniel. No need to get territorial. That's when something broke in me. I walked straight into Dad's office and demanded answers. He leaned back, sighing like I was some child throwing a tantrum. This is what I was afraid of. You getting possessive. Serena's a breath of fresh air. She's got vision. You're dependable, but you resist change. I resist sabotage. I snapped. He narrowed his eyes. Careful. And that's when I saw it. The folders on his desk, all printed out. Financial reports, client contacts, proposal drafts. My work. Given to her. They weren't just easing Serena in. They were phasing me out. And I had no idea why. Until 3 days later, when I got the envelope. It was slid under my apartment door. No return address. Inside? A printed screenshot of Serena's LinkedIn DMs, and one name stood out. Robert Kingston, Kingston Lighting Group. Our biggest competitor. The message? Let's discuss takeover terms. I've almost got the keys. I stared at that screenshot for 10 full minutes, brain stalling like a frozen app. Takeover? Takeover? Serena wasn't just ambitious. She was trying to sell the company out from under us, to our biggest rival, Kingston Lighting Group, a company that had tried, and failed, to poach our major clients for years. I called Dad. No answer. I texted, we need to talk. Urgent. Nothing. The next day at work, Serena was all smiles again, dressed like she was heading to a runway show instead of a logistics meeting. She tossed me a casual morning, like we hadn't just crossed into DEFCON 1. I sat through a marketing review where she pitched luxury influencer partnerships and suggested we rename our product lines after Greek gods, because, apparently, Apollo pendants would somehow sell better than model for Be Warm Light sconce. Dad just nodded along like she was Steve Jobs in heels. When the meeting ended, I cornered her in the hallway. You're talking to Kingston, I said quietly. Her expression didn't flicker. Not a twitch. Just a practice blink. Excuse me? I held up the envelope. This came to my apartment. Someone's watching you. Or maybe they just want to give me a head start before the whole company burns down. She laughed. Actually laughed. You poor thing. Do you always believe anonymous letters? I saw the message. It's your account. Anyone can fake a screenshot, Daniel. She walked off like it was beneath her to even be accused. But her hand had trembled. Just slightly. That night I dug deeper. I pulled up our company email logs. Had IT helped me access old server records, and yes. There it was. An upload to a private cloud account 4 nights ago. Massive. Full data export, suppliers, PNLS, pricing breakdowns. She was building a package. And she was almost done. But the final blow came the next morning. Dad called an emergency meeting. Said he had an exciting announcement. Serena sat beside him, glowing like an Oscar winner. I've decided, Dad said, to take a step back. Let the younger generation take over more formally. He smiled at Serena. Effective next month, Serena will be co-president. Company. President. She turned and winked at me. I stood there, heart pounding, while the room politely clapped. Then Serena leaned in, just for me to hear, and whispered, You should have moved faster, brother. And right then I knew I wasn't just fighting to save a business anymore. I was in a war to keep my life. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I just sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop, reading that DM screenshot over and over like it would suddenly admit it was all a bad prank. But the timestamp was recent. The tone was real. And Serena? She was playing us all. I needed proof. Concrete, digital, undeniable proof. So the next day, I faked a crash. I mean a massive system error in our network that brought everything to a screeching halt. Emailed IT from an alt account I'd made 2 years ago when I thought my dad was secretly spying on me. Long story. The fake crash forced a reset, triggered a company-wide backup, and dumped a copy of everything onto our secure server, which I controlled. I found her files. A folder labeled Vision_2026. That was actually a goldmine of betrayal. Hidden inside, full pricing data, contract histories, projected earnings, all redrafted in Kingston's formatting. And right at the top? A PDF proposal with her signature. Strategic merger, Serena Collins, Vice President, Kingston Lighting Group. Boom. That same day, I also got a text. From a number I didn't know. Meet me at Eddie's bar. 9 p.m., trust me. At first, I thought it was her. Some kind of trap. But curiosity gnawed at me worse than fear. So I went. And who do I find nursing a gin and tonic in the darkest booth? Carol. My dad's wife. Ice Queen. Background statue in all family moments. Until now. You're not crazy, she said before I even sat down. I've been watching her too. I blinked. Wait, what? She sighed, looking suddenly very tired. Your dad thinks with his pride, not his head. He's always had a weakness for flattery. Serena figured that out fast. I just stared. She's playing him. Always has been. This wasn't a DNA test reunion. She found him years ago. Researched everything. Even knew about your mother. She's been planning this since before you even met her. I swallowed. Why are you telling me this? Carol met my eyes. Because I may not like you, Daniel, but you're the only one actually running that company. And if she takes over, we both lose everything. Then she slid a flash drive across the table. Email logs. From your father's account. He gave her full access. But she got sloppy. Started forwarding things to Kingston's legal team. I picked it up, hard hammering. You have 24 hours before the board votes on the new ownership structure, she said, standing. After that, it's over. I sat there in the dark, gripping that flash drive, adrenaline roaring in my ears. I didn't know how this would end. But I knew one thing now for sure. Serena wasn't just not my sister. She was my enemy. The next morning, I went into the office wearing my sharpest suit and the coldest expression I could manage. My hands were steady, but inside I felt like a pressure cooker 2 seconds before the lid blows. Serena was already there, of course, posted at my old desk with a designer notebook and a smug little smirk like she'd already won. Dad wasn't in yet. The board meeting was in 2 hours. That was my window. First, I called an all-staff meeting. Everyone, sales, logistics, design, piled into the conference room expecting some Vision 2026 nonsense, but I shut that down quick. I have something important to share, I said, connecting my laptop to the big screen. I opened the folder labeled MergeGate. A few people gasped. I hadn't even hit play yet. I clicked on an audio file. Serena's voice filled the room. Honestly, my brother's a placeholder. He's emotional, territorial, and just small-minded. Once the deal is final, he'll be gone. They'll buy him out. We'll replace him with a COO from Kingston. Clean. Efficient. Gasps. Then silence. A few heads slowly turned toward her. Serena shot up from her chair. This is private. This is illegal. Not when it's downloaded from a company server you uploaded it to. I replied calmly. Our company. You know, the one you tried to sell without the board's approval. I clicked again. Up came the signed PDF of the merger proposal with Kingston. Then the email logs, emails forwarded to R. Kingston at Group. Work. The smoking gun. Serena turned to Dad. Tell them it's fake. Tell them this is just Daniel being jealous. But Dad looked stunned. Pale. Crushed. Serena, tell me you didn't sign anything. He said, voice barely above a whisper. She stared at him, lips parted. Didn't say a word. That was all he needed. Within the hour, the emergency board meeting was called. I presented everything again, this time with Carol sitting silently in the back like the ghost of corporate vengeance. They voted unanimously. Serena was removed, effective immediately. Her credentials revoked, her system access cut off on the spot. She stormed out in stilettos and silence. But not before leaning in close to me at the elevator. You think you won? You have no idea what you started. The doors closed on her face, but her words lingered like poison. Dad didn't say much afterward. Just handed me an envelope and left the building. Inside? The deed transferred to 51% of the company. My name on it. No note. Just a single line scribbled at the bottom. Protected better than I did. The next few weeks were weird. Like walking through a war zone after the bombs stopped falling. Everything was technically still standing, but nothing felt stable. Staff were skittish. Clients had questions. And Dad? He vanished. No calls, no emails. He didn't even come to the next board meeting. Carol claimed he was taking time, which I figured was code for hiding from the flaming crater that was his decision-making. And Serena? She went full ghost mode. No social media updates. No press drama. I expected a lawsuit, a smear campaign, something. But it was silence. Until the boxes started arriving. The first was left at the front desk. Plain cardboard, no return label. Inside, my old college hoodie, a cracked mug I'd had on my desk for years, and a note. Let's see how much of this was ever really yours. I threw it away. Probably just bitterness, right? But then came the second box. Same plain packaging. Inside, a USB drive and a stack of printed emails. From me. Except, I hadn't written any of them. They were forged. Badly. Like AI generator bad. But if someone wasn't paying attention, they'd look legit. They painted a picture of me, embezzling, harassing, mishandling funds. I checked the company inbox. Nothing. Then I checked personal accounts. That's when I saw it. Someone had created a burner Gmail with a variation of my name and sent those fake emails to reporters. To clients. To a couple of junior board members. It was a full smear campaign in motion. I called Marissa in HR and had her scan everything. We traced the source IPs. Guess where they originated? A private co-working space in L.A. Registered to Collins Enterprises. Serena wasn't trying to win anymore. She was trying to scorch the earth on her way out. So I went public first. We issued a company-wide statement. Transparency, full display. I attached the fake emails, the evidence of tampering, even the server logs. I called it what it was, sabotage from a disgruntled former employee. I expected panic. But what I got instead was loyalty. Staff backed me. Clients called in support. Even our supplier, old cranky Mike in Milwaukee, sent me a voice memo. About time someone took out the damn trash, kid. It could have ended there. Should have. But then I got a call. Unknown number. Late at night. I answered. And there she was. Serena. Congrats on surviving, she said, voice cool and calm like we were catching up over brunch. But you should know something. What? I'm not done. Click. It had been 6 weeks since Serena's last call, the final threat she whispered before disappearing again like some kind of corporate ghost. I'm not done, she'd said. Just vague enough to get under my skin. Just sharp enough to make me check the locks on my apartment for the first time in a decade. I thought she'd hit me with lawsuits, or dig up some ancient tweet and try to cancel me. Instead, she vanished. And I'd be lying if I said part of me didn't stay on edge. I was running the company now. Officially. Legally. Alone. Dad never returned. Carol said he was working things out with a friend upstate, which I assumed meant he was drinking wine and pretending Serena didn't almost sell his life's work to the competition. The business itself was holding steady. Some clients walked, but most stayed. I put the focus back on actual product quality and less on brand storytelling and weird Greek god packaging. I even rehired Tim from accounting. Serena had fired him after he refused to get her a latte once. Things were okay. Until the Kingston offer came in. Not a leak. Not sabotage. An actual, official offer. $7. $5 million. They wanted to buy us out, completely. Keep the staff, rebrand under their umbrella, and pay me out in a neat, tax-sheltered package. The letter came signed by none other than Robert Kingston himself. With a P.S. Hope there are no hard feelings. Serena says hi. I threw the letter across the room. I wasn't going to take it. Obviously. Right? Except, for the first time in a long time, I started thinking about the years I spent rebuilding this company from Dad's reckless wreckage. About the long nights alone at my desk, balancing client needs, supplier chaos, and a man who refused to ever say thank you. About Serena's smirk, and what it cost me to wipe it off her face. Was I still fighting to win? Or just fighting out of pride? That night, I opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving since my 30th birthday. No special occasion. I just needed something to burn. I called Carol. Can I ask you something? I said. Do I have a choice? Why did you give me that flash drive? Really? She was quiet for a moment. Then said, because I hated watching that girl take what you actually earned. Your father, he never wanted a son who was better than him. But you are. And I figured, if you were going to lose everything, at least go down swinging. I hung up without saying goodbye. I didn't need to. I spent the rest of the week digging. Not just into Serena's sabotage, but into me. My habits. My ownership. My value. And by Friday, I had a decision. I sent Kingston a counteroffer. $12 million. Full buyout. One condition, I remain on for 1 year as transitional advisor with creative freedom. After that I walk clean. No strings. They accepted in less than 48 hours. I signed the papers on a Tuesday. The next day, I posted a company-wide announcement. I watched the shock ripple across the faces of people who had stood by me, laughed with me, fought alongside me. But I kept it real. I told them the truth. We survived a hostile takeover. We cleaned up the mess. And now, we cash out. You all keep your jobs. Your benefits. Your projects. Nothing changes, except we stop dragging the past into the future. I left the building that afternoon with nothing but a laptop bag and a peppermint from the receptionist's jar. Outside, it was raining. Fitting, I thought. Until I looked up. And saw her. Serena. Leaning against a black car in a trench coat that probably cost more than my rent. She smiled like we were old friends. Like I hadn't just burned her kingdom down and sold off the ashes. Told you I wasn't done. She said. Is this the part where you throw a drink in my face? No. I'm here to say, well done. I raised an eyebrow. You came all this way to congratulate me? She shrugged. You didn't sell to Kingston out of desperation. You sold out of strategy. That was smart. I underestimated you. Thanks, I guess? She smirked. Just know this, I always land on my feet. We'll meet again, Daniel. I walked past her, didn't say another word. Just kept going. But in my head I was smiling. Because for the first time in my life, she didn't look like a threat anymore. She looked like someone watching the game from the sidelines. And I'd already won. 6 months later, I'm living in Lisbon, running a boutique design firm. Tiny team, real clients, no drama. No secret half-sisters, no bitter fathers, no sabotage dressed in high heels. Sometimes I think about Serena. Wonder where she ended up. If she tried to pull the same stunt on someone else. If she ever looked at the ceiling fan in her luxury penthouse and thought, I didn't beat him. And maybe she did. But in my head I just hear her whispering one last time. You're not my blood. And now, I finally get to whisper back. Exactly.